Scots Politics is an online magazine, basically referred to as a Caledonian version of the Huffington Post by absolutely no one. It's a Monday to Friday publication where basically we get one article leading every day from students, from professional journalists, from anyone who really wants to get in contact. I'm the editor, which basically sounds a lot more glamorous and Mad Men-esque than it actually is. It's basically staying up until 2 o'clock in the morning, every morning, editing people's pieces, getting them on the site, dealing with all the angry comments that come flooding in, massaging the egos of writers, and doing the advertising. The magazine's been running since September, so we hit our 200th post, Friday, which was kind of nice. We've got a variety of writers. We've got some big one-off names like David Torrance and John McLeod. We've also got a variety of regulars. For example, there's John Greenaway, who's one of our best writers. You give him any topic and he'll write something fantastic on it. We've got Craig Gallagher, our man in Boston, an expat who gives a really good, concise view of what it's like, the independence debate over in America. Andy Davis is quite a vocal lefty, I'll be euphemistic and put it that way. He's also working on doing a First Minister's Questions sketch roundup at the end of everything. He's been described as one of the cruelest wits on the Twitter sphere. And then I'm always trolling the blogosphere to get new writers. We've had all the party leaders except for Ruth Davidson so far. We're working on getting her. We also had John Park, who was behind Labour's disastrous 2011 election campaign. He came to us and sort of did almost a show trial-esque interview where he said, yeah, this was completely my fault. Oh yeah, I take full responsibility. The reaction to the whole thing's been overwhelmingly positive. I mean, we've got 45,000 unique viewers looking at us every month. Of course, if you're not, or particularly in Scotland, if you're not vehemently pro-independence or vehemently anti-independence, then either side's going to attack you, even if you take care to be completely neutral. I think there's definitely a place for the print magazine. I mean, for example, I've got a subscription to the New Statesman that comes through the letterbox every Friday. There's something very satisfying about sitting down and thinking, right, okay, I'm actually going to read this from cover to cover. When people read online, they read in a completely different format. I don't know if you're aware, but they read in an F format. So they'll kind of scan the top line and look halfway down the second and then just look for keywords. So you've got to be a lot more aggressive and brutal if you're writing online. Whereas if you're writing for print media, you can actually take time, develop an argument. It's more of an art form.
I do think that online content will take over physical stuff in the future just because it's easier to access and technology is advancing, making it so much easier for people to get to. Whereas I think newspapers will still be around, but more sort of a niche type thing for people who specifically want those kind of articles.
I'd hope that it doesn't take over because I think a lot of people, myself included, really like having a physical thing like a newspaper. I mean, I can see the benefits of everything being online.
I don't actually get much time to write articles that I'd like to do, so what I tend to do is have the ideas and then I'll fob them off onto another writer. I'm writing something at the moment about identity, because I don't know if you noticed, but some of the most vocal people arguing for Scottish independence don't tend to live here. The ones that get the most traffic tend to be the independent, the very pro-independence ones. Actually, the LGBT ones get quite a lot. There's a guy who writes for us, Chris Jen, and he racks up way over 1,000 views, every day for every article, which is quite nice. And I don't know if it's because there's not much of a presence there on that particular scene. If there's not a lot of LGBT politics being discussed in, a vaguely mainstream thing. If you look at the other stuff that comes under the heading of politics, you'll see that some of the most vocal for and against people do tend to be people of our age group. For example, you've got the equal marriage debate, you've got that woman dying in the hospital in Galway because she wasn't having an abortion. That's all politics. And I think our generation's a particularly good one for it. For example, we're living in a time of social upheaval. We've got riots in the street. We've got the traditional ruling classes return to power. We've got all these people who they did everything right. They did everything that they were told to do, and they still can't get jobs. They're being told they're going to have to work until they're 95 and a half or something like that. They're not going to get any houses. Basically we've been completely sold out and lied to. But the fact is we're articulate enough to, articulate it, I suppose. If you look at Scots Politics, it's nothing that actually has a distinct aim. It's just a writers' collective of young, angry bloggers.
I think people know a lot more about politics, mainly because of the recession and Scottish independence. I think especially the younger generation.
I think if you didn't already have an opinion, or you weren't willing to go out and make a stand for something or say something, then you're not going to now. I think the internet and stuff makes it easier to sort of state your opinion online but not really do anything about it outside of that, which doesn't really have that much of an effect.
Obviously, I go and look at the news websites. For example, I read a lot of The Guardian, Telegraph, Independent, that kind of thing. One of our writers actually writes for The Independent. I spend a lot of time on Twitter, which is fantastic for finding out what people are actually talking about. You'll see a lot of links that don't necessarily get shared in the mainstream media, sort of being rebutted about, that kind of thing. So that means you can make a story of something that should be a story. We've actually got a lot of stuff in the pipeline. We've got a podcast up and running. We're going to be working on an app. We're expanding a bit more to make it more traditional magazine territory. So instead of just politics articles, there's going to be stuff about, there's going to be restaurant reviews, gig reviews, more sort of a cultural thing. Basically, we're kind of moving on in hard copies territory because they're bullies and thugs and we can easily take them.